Joyce Snell. I graduated from Milford in 1948. I started in the first grade there and went 12 years, as did my father. I had 4 children graduated from Milford. We have the 5th generation in the school right now in the 6th grade, and another one going to start the 1st grade. And that's kind of unusual because companies make people globetrotters now, but we didn't know there was any way out of town, so we've been here all that time. I retired out of the Milford school system teaching, and my daughter will retire next year from teaching in the Milford system. Really cool. So we have a long history in the school. And I think probably Milford, Maine is the most cherished place in Milford for the most people. And I found this out in 1983. We celebrated the school centennial. And or Superintendent asked me if I would be chairman. So I put out something in the paper that I would like to have memorabilia or pictures or, anything people would like to share with us, because we decided we would have a big alumni dinner on Saturday night and an open house at Milford, Maine on Sunday. So Mr. Heron was very cooperative, and we went to work planning our big day. And all of a sudden I began to hear from people all over that I didn't know were still here, from out from under the woodwork or behind drapes. I didn't even know. They were so old, they were still here. And they were coming forth with all these pictures and programs and dance programs and all the things that they had had, and old yearbooks from before it was the Drawflam. And I was just overwhelmed with all the things that they came in. And I learned right away that they had felt a certain amount of ownership about that building, because I was a librarian up on the 2nd floor, and the side door they could come in. And they didn't think they'd go to the office. They didn't have to go to the office and get permission. There was a steady stream some days coming up there bringing this, wanting to talk. And Mr. Heron was very understanding about this and supportive of it. And so he assigned teachers to jobs to do that day, and we had refreshments and big open house, and it was just one of the greatest things I can remember, one of the 2 greatest things I can remember happening in Milford in my lifetime. People came from California, they came from New Jersey and places in between. Like, these people have loved this place, and they all came back for this celebration. And we gave different classes rooms if they wanted them, where they could meet with their classmates. And my dad's class was a class of 1928, and they had a particular room that we assigned at random. And after it was over, Bob Loneman, who was a local mailman that delivered mail all over town, everyone knew him, he came and he says, "Joyce, do you know we met in the room, your daughter's room where she's teaching, and your father and I went to the 1st grade in that room?" So I thought that was most unusual, and it was a random thing. We just gave the class of 28 that room. But here he said, that was the very room where your daughter teaches that we went to 1st grade. And then we had the dinner, and it was in this building, but it was in the cafeteria, and it was the junior high then. And about 200 people. And Mrs. Marquette, who was a home ec teacher, very capable, lovely lady, said that she could train the students to serve the dinner. So I selected the menu, but I was very worried whether I just had visions of coffee or soup, going on people. But they did a fantastic job. And we had a very nice dinner, and 2 old ladies from the classes of the teens, 13 and 14, there were 2 of them, and then about 3 more even from the teens. And one got up and made the nicest talk about Milford. We were just so impressed, these old people, and somebody had brought them. And I was at the head table, and I said to my husband, "Do you know, we forgot to light these candles at this table." And I had no more said that than the lights went out. It was darker than, I don't think there were any windows in the place at the time. It was pitch dark. And I thought, oh, what are we going to do? We had all these old people in here, and we're here at pitch dark. Well, we got the candles on the table lighted, and one of the secretaries knew there were candles, and she went and got them. But someone had hit a pole out on 131. Electricity. So I will always especially remember that time. But we did, classes had tables where they sat and all together, and a lot of friendships renewed. And that's when I realized how very much that school meant to so many people years and years later. But as I say, I went 12 years there. And I kind of lost my train of thought, but that happens to people from the last century. I'm from the last century, you know. I'll just tell you a little bit about the building. When we had the prom, we had our dinner in the cafeteria. The cooks cooked it. And if you were a really important sophomore, you had the honor of serving us. And after the dinner, we went up into the gym where the junior class had really done a fantastic job of changing that to a beautiful place. And we had the prom there. And about 9:30, they had a grand march. And we would all march clear around the outer periphery of the gym while our parents sat in the balcony. This was when we had a balcony, not the chairs that they have now. And they would come in and watch the parade of their children, you know, all in their finery and everything. Well, after the prom was over, you felt like you should go someplace, but we weren't old enough to get a drink. Not that that was in when we were in school. But anyway, we went over to Kentucky and went to a nightclub and had a Coke. And then my husband's family, Herb and Violet Snell, always had a breakfast for the senior class. And you could come anytime from midnight till 6 o'clock in the morning and get breakfast and stay around and socialize. So our prom was much different than yours. Now, how much more do you want me to say?
Yeah, just keep going.
Yeah, if you want to talk.
I could go for 2 hours.
That's good.
When they said 10 minutes, I thought I could do 10 hours. Well, I'll tell you about the playground. And this show they just had some of the things that were on our playground, but we were Depression kids. People didn't have much. And I don't know how we had such fine equipment on the playground unless it was that it was done during the 20s, which were very prosperous. But we had a teeter-totter and these all thick metal bar things. We had a huge slide. In my memory, it was so high as a little person. It was the biggest slide I ever saw. And then they had bars like this and tripods of bars coming down. And then they were changed and more bars, and we could go back and forth and swing on those if we were really talented, hang by our knees and things like that. But you could climb up the pole and swing over to the other pole and slide down a different pole than you had gone up. That was lots of fun. We had a jungle gym, and then we had something called a giant stride, which was in that picture. It was a big metal pole that went up like this, and there were about 10 chains that came down to where we could reach. There were bars, 2 metal bars, and you would grab them like this, and everybody would run and you would fly out into the air. But everybody could get near the pole and one person take his chain and go all the way around, wrap around everybody, and then they would all start to run, and you would be straight out in the air going around. This was called a free ride. Now, today that wouldn't be allowed. It's too dangerous. Everybody you might get sued. But they didn't worry about those things in those days, and I don't know of anyone that ever was hurt. We drew circles in the dirt, and we shot marbles, even the girls. We'd have our agate. If you shot the marble out, you got to keep it. We jumped rope, double dutch, things like that, hopscotch, but we had a great time on the playground with so much more equipment, I think, than the children have today, and we enjoyed it a lot more because no one worried about us getting hurt.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, maybe that's enough. Is there anything you would like to ask me?
Anything you?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's perfect.
My father talked about, when he went to school, there was no gym, there was no cafeteria, and down the boys and the girls section, there was a room right down the bottom of the boys, and that's a classroom, but they used that for their lunchroom if they didn't walk home for lunch. And they had no gym, and down at Riverside Park, there was a big pavilion, dance pavilion, with a stage at one end. And Ray Arian, who was the head of the waterworks, figured out that if they put sides on that, he could put enough steam over in there. It would be warm enough for the basketball team to practice. And so my dad always practiced over there, and even a Terrace Park, who didn't have a gym either, they would come over and practice in that building that he had fixed up for them. And he said when they were in a tournament down at UC, they were expected to get on the bus at their own expense, go downtown, take a transfer, get to UC carrying all their gear, and be there on time.
Oh, wow.
And play in the game. So, and then one other thing my dad told me about, they had a basketball tournament. He was a very good basketball player. In fact, he was mayor of Milford for 12 years, which is a record to this day.
Oh, wow.
But they went up there and they were playing Amelia in the old Batavia Armory. And it got down to the last minutes of the game, seconds of the game, and they were down 1 point. And so my dad took a desperation shot through the rafters, it scored, and they won the tournament. And I guess the Milford students all went wild over that.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
anyway, I will quit, because otherwise I will go on and no one else will get a chance to be in here. Thank you for this. Thank you for